recall ever calling Mr. Damiano?
I honestly cannot recall.
How far back do you keep your phone records, sir?
I'm going to object now because if you're about to interrogate this client about calls that other than the two that you've produced, I'm just losing my temper here because
you're unnecessarily losing it.
I'm going to terminate this examination. It's happened before when we've had things at the 11th hour. Fine.
It's nothing like that.
I will recede.
It's not. I am not.
I saw you looking at a transcript, and I didn't know if you.
Notes. Did I type up some notes?
I think I have reason to be paranoid. Let's go ahead. Go ahead. I apologize if that was.
I'll use a crayon from now on, okay?
Fine.
So you're not alone.
Fine. Just wanted to put you on notice. That if there's a third call that hasn't been disclosed, this examination's over. But go ahead.
Okay. You made me laugh, Mr. Smith.
Fine. I'm happy to have done that.
I appreciate it.
Because I usually just make you angry.
Okay.
Or amused.
Okay, Mr. Mintz. Do you recall, sir, calling Mr. Damiano in North Carolina?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall ever calling Mr. Damiano?
I honestly cannot recall.
How far back do you keep your phone records, sir? Do you recall ever calling Mr. Damiano?
I honestly cannot recall.
How far back do you keep your phone records, sir?
I'm going to object now because if you're about to interrogate this client about calls that other than the two that you've produced, I'm just losing my temper here because
you're unnecessarily losing it.
I'm going to terminate this examination. It's happened before when we've had things at the 11th hour. Fine.
It's nothing like that.
I will recede.
It's not. I am not.
I saw you looking at a transcript, and I didn't know if you.
Notes. Did I type up some notes?
I think I have reason to be paranoid. Let's go ahead. Go ahead. I apologize if that was.
I'll use a crayon from now on, okay?
Fine.
So you're not alone.
Fine. Just wanted to put you on notice. That if there's a third call that hasn't been disclosed, this examination's over. But go ahead.
Okay. You made me laugh, Mr. Smith.
Fine. I'm happy to have done that.
I appreciate it.
Because I usually just make you angry.
Okay.
Or amused.
Okay, Mr. Mintz. Do you recall, sir, calling Mr. Damiano in North Carolina?
I don't recall.
Okay. Let me try to refresh your memory, if I may.
Sure.
Do you recall in this June of '91 calling Mr. Damiano in North Carolina and saying the following to him? Hello, this is Mitch Berman. How are you? The address here is 2934 and a half Beverly Glen Circle, Suite 412, Bel Air, California, 90077. Mr. Damiano repeating it to make sure he got it correctly. You saying yes, that is correct. Do you recall that?
Can I object? And was this something that was turned over to us, a transcript that you're reading from?
It's not a tape, Mr. Snyder.
Was it a note of a conversation that your client gave to you?
Yes.
Deposition's over. We're leaving. We're leaving. Let's go. We're leaving.
You're saying that a communication between me and my client is discoverable?
Your client obviously kept notes from 1991 of a conversation which he didn't.
Oh, that's an inference. That's an inference that you're making, sir. And I would ask you.
You're reading from a transcript now. I'm not looking at it, but I can tell that's what you're doing.
Mr. Snyder, Mr. Snyder, Mr. Snyder, you are jumping to conclusions.
You're reading from a paper, right?
I am reading from a confidential, and I didn't realize I had to
I'm not reading.
do this.
I'm not
I
reading.
mean, I would think there'd be some degree of
No.
professional courtesy
No,
that I
because
wouldn't
your
have to
client's
cover
been
my
turning-
notes.
Your client's been turning over documents late. And
Mr. Snyder, we just found out documents were destroyed. So please, get off your high
Before the
horse.
lawsuit.
Get off
Before
your
the-
high horse, please.
Before the lawsuit was filed, thank you. Blank pieces of paper.
Not
Before the
blank,
lawsuit
not
was
blank
filed.
pieces of paper. Documents that he's contending were illegible. And
What are you saying right
were
now?
not blank when they came across the fax
You're-
line.
you're-
And what I'm saying, sir, is that a communication from my client to me that he remembers a conversation for you is grounds to terminate a deposition. I would suggest that you do this, sir. Get some air, talk to your partner, and I mean this with all seriousness and sincerity, and tell me whether you really want to terminate this
Let me ask
deposition, because
you-
I say to you, if you do it at your peril, without basis, and it would be something I think you would regret in a cooler moment.
Fine.
Okay?
Let me ask you this. Your representation is that as you read from whatever you're reading from, your client has no notes of anything that forms the basis of any of these questions?
As I've made clear to you, I am not shy about telling you if my client has not given me something. I've made that clear to you, and you've seen that. Even when it's not to my advantage, I've done that. And you know I've done that.
I know you have.
Okay? And I would
Based on my
not
concern,
hesitate to do that. All I can tell you is
you're reading.
that if I ask my client to recount a conversation, and he does so, and his wife types it,
God bless him.
Yeah, why can't I do that?
You're reading, as you know, it appears that you're reading something verbatim of something that happened 5 years ago. And when you start
it's a list of questions.
When you start reading, I'm not asking you to tell me your notes. When you're reading something verbatim, word for word, about a conversation that I had 5 years ago, instead of saying certain substance, did you say the following? But you're literally giving, with adverbs, adjectives, prepositions, word for word, asking whether he said that and the other one said that 5 years ago. It gives us a moment to pause and be concerned that he has notes of those conversations that we haven't been provided with.
Okay, all I can say to you
Yes.
is that I don't have any such notes, and he's not disclosed to me that he has such notes, and I've asked him for such notes. That's all I can say
Might
to
they
you.
exist?
Not to my knowledge. That's all I can. What else can I say to you?
You see,
All I can do is ask for them. I don't, just like you don't control Mr. Dillon,
Right.
right? I have only so much control over my clients,
I
Mr.
understand.
Damiano among them.
When he gave you the verbatim quote that his wife typed or whoever quote typed for you, did you ask him?
Now you're asking for privileged communications, Mr. Snyder, and I'm not going to get into that.
The obvious disadvantage and unfairness would be, for example, if he had notes that you're unaware of sitting here today, of these conversations, that I wasn't provided, then I would have been unable to give my client those notes to prepare him for this deposition.
I don't have them.
I understand you don't, but you have some verbatim quotes of something that allegedly happened 5 years ago, and
Am I doing it again?